No, delighted to be joined by nutritionist Anne Darcy. Is it fair? Is that the best description of you, Anne?
It is. I started out life as a nurse.
Right.
And after years of nursing and working through all different areas, including heart that we're talking about today, because I've worked in that area. And then I went off and I studied. So I'm a naturopath trained in Australia, which makes me a herbalist and a nutritionist and a homeopath, and doing massage work. So every now and again I'll do body work, musculoskeletal techniques, try and free up tight muscles where people have injuries and that. So there's a combination of things that I do.
Well, that's alongside conventional training and being a conventional nurse, if there's such a thing as a conventional nurse.
But once a nurse, always a nurse.
Well,
you kind of think in that way always. And I think even when I was nursing, it was, very much taking care of people.
Yes.
But I think it's come for people to take responsibility for their own health, where it's not, you tell me what to do and I'll do it. It's like, I want to make changes. I want to feel better. And I really feel people just want to feel well. They want to have energy.
But what is it that takes them to that point? Because I don't mind saying publicly, I'm waiting for that the road to Damascus experience that I'll say, okay, now I want to do it. Now I'm going to give up all the bad stuff. Now I'm going to do it.
Well, sometimes do you have to get pains in your head? Do you have to get muscle aches? Do you have to be crippled with joint ache in the morning before you finally say, enough is enough, I should not be feeling this unwell, or my stomach is bad, or I've heartburn, or I've constipation, diarrhea, whatever it is? They're symptoms.
Yes.
This week my car was blowing white smoke out the back and my turbo was gone, and it's gone off to be reconditioned, and isn't it grand? I'll have that back to me tomorrow with the turbo done. But yet our body is giving us symptoms all the time. In the same way, we're rumbling and grumbling in our gut. We get up and our fingers are achy in the morning, and we have back pain, but these are symptoms of something going on. Now the biggest factor is, what are you putting into the system? I wonder, did I put in dirty diesel, and was that why? But no, there was a problem. So if I repair the problem with my car, and in the same way, we identify what's the problem in your digestive system. So when you eat your food, you need to digest it.
Yes.
So you chew it, you make enzymes, you digest carbohydrates in your mouth. The food is swallowed into your stomach. You digest protein foods, and those protein foods go on to make your muscle, hormones, enzymes, brain chemicals. So those hormones are raw material. Then you put them with a few minerals and vitamins, which are cofactors that make the things work. And if you have enough of all of those, the body works well. Now, what happens when it's working well? What have you? No symptoms. So, you only go to the doctor with symptoms, and basically your doctor would like you to be well. If he could see a healthy person coming in once a year to say, am I still doing okay? Much nicer.
Wouldn't it be great?
But what he's faced with is, I've got stiffness, I've got back pain, I've got
headaches,
headaches,
whatever.
Can you sort me out?
It's interesting about the car analogy. I mean, you or I will not put dodgy petrol into our car.
And the more expensive your car,
you certainly won't.
The more expensive that you'll go for the service.
But here we go. We'll pour in pints of this and glasses of that and chocolate
sugars.
All
what it is, the sugar doesn't really help people. What it does is your blood sugar goes up, and it causes you to release a high amount of insulin. Now that insulin goes high for you to take the sugar from the blood and put it into the cells to make energy. But if you eat more sugar, then you burn off, which is what most of us are doing. Even if you get a carton of yogurt and it's a low-fat yogurt, you look and you see 20 grams of carbohydrate, and as such 20 grams of sugar or 18 grams of sugar. That's about 4 to 5 teaspoons of sugar. Now you wouldn't get the sugar bowl out and pour it in, but yet you'll eat that yogurt.
In a low-fat yogurt? In a
low-fat yogurt.
About 4 spoons of sugar?
About 4 spoons of sugar.
Oh, my God.
The equivalent of 4 spoons of sugar. So that's where you have to start looking to see. So, you go and have your chocolate. You might even have rice cakes, and they can still be a high carbohydrate. But if you balance your carbohydrates with your proteins, so you're balancing your blood sugars, if you can keep your blood sugars stable, then you will avoid forcing your sugars to be deposited in the belly as fat.
Right.
So we have sugar balance problems. So I know Sinead Denny started a Zest for Life program here in Clonmel last night, and will be running, that you can still join, and it's balancing blood sugars. It's the glycemic load diet. It's how do you balance the blood sugar? So if you have a protein, fat and carbohydrate with each meal, then you don't get the high rise of sugar. Now some people get high sugar, get high adrenaline, then the sugar drops. Now they're hypoglycemic. The blood sugars are gone down. They have a headache over their eyes. Their hands are shaking. They're irritable and cranky. And then what do they go for? Something else that will bring up the sugar. Now, even if you took a strong coffee with no sugar, you'll get a shot of adrenaline from the coffee. So when you see the coffee junkies or the sweet junkies, what you're trying to do is bring your sugar back up because your brain is running on sugar. So without glucose, the brain is starving. So it makes you crave the next lot of sugar. So, if you're on this bouncing highs and lows of sugar all day long, you're raising your insulin. High insulin is pushing that sugar into the fat storage, primarily in the belly. So when you see the belly measurement going up,
yes.
The pants is getting lower and lower in the waistband because you can't possibly tie it around the belly.
Know? Yeah, don't I know? Well,
but it is correct. But you see, you have to change the way you're eating, and that's where it takes the responsibility. But if you start putting a lot of fat into the belly, you start releasing inflammation chemicals. Now the blood vessels in the heart get damaged from these inflammation chemicals. We have oxidized fats that are causing this plaque build-up in the heart. So now you end up with blockages, possibly needing the bypass. But if you can stop the bouncing blood sugars and reduce down the fat intake that you have, you can avoid blocking those blood vessels.
Now, you said we would home in on the heart today, and that's just what you've begun to do. But there's all sorts of stuff out there telling us this is good for your heart. Here's what you really need for your heart. Blah, blah, blah. If you take this every day, your heart will be fine. We don't know what to believe anymore.
Would you believe balancing your blood sugar is very, very important. Getting rid of the belly fat, the hardened fat in the belly.
Just in layman's terms, what do we need to do that?
You need to eat a mixture of protein, fat and carbs. So protein is your meat. But we know that the meat, everyone is cutting the fat off the meat. The cholesterol that we're looking at is in the meat, not the fat. Every cell in your body is wrapped in cholesterol. So if you're eating meat, the meat has the cholesterol. You're cutting off the saturated fat.
Right.
But if you have somebody whose blood test is showing high triglycerides, that's the fat, that's saturated fat. But if you eat a high sugar diet, your triglycerides are high from the high sugars, not necessarily from the fat, because there's not as many people eating the fat on the meat anymore. But if you cut the fat off of a piece of bacon, you're going to eat more bacon.
Yeah.
Can you picture?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
You're eating more of it, and then you're eating more of the cholesterol in that. So if you're trying to balance your cholesterol, you really need to start reducing your meat. You need plenty of vegetables, fruit, vegetables, berries, nuts, seeds. Now, you can have your grain, but you're better with brown bread, not white, because white flour, white bread, they all behave in the same way as sugar. They will cause the high rise in sugar, which causes the high insulin, which says, let's put that sugar somewhere into storage, let's get it out of the blood quickly, and you'll force it to the belly fat.
Right.
So it's the high carbohydrate or the high bread, biscuits, sweets, sugars.
So when something says it's low in fat, it's not necessarily going to not put weight on you.
No, it's low in fat and it can be higher in sugar. And then if you think, I'm on the low-fat yogurt and I'm on 2 or 3 of those a day because you're hungry and you're looking for a snack, then you might be increasing your sugar and it can be harder to lose weight. So it's about balancing it. I think it's about balancing protein, that every meal. So if you got up and had a bowl of porridge and you put seeds with it, you have carbohydrate and protein. And the seeds and the porridge has some oil and fat.
That's all good.
That's good. You can have brown bread with an egg. That's good. And the same thing, you can have your meat and have it with the vegetables. And you can have your potato. There's nothing to say don't have your potato. We do know that arthritis, people with the stiff joints, can be have more stiffness because of the nightshade vegetables, of which the potato is one.
Is that potassium?
No, it's not to do with potassium. There is potassium in potatoes, but the nightshade has there's acids in the nightshade vegetables that can trigger the stiffness in arthritis. So that people who are stiff, so if you said I've arthritis today, I'm all stiff. Now if you had no stiffness, would you say you had arthritis?
No.
So if the stiffness went away just because you cut down on your potato or started having sweet potato instead, then just move temporarily, see can you get rid of the stiffness. Because I was talking to a man the other day and he said, he was listening in on the show and he said, I'm crippled with arthritis, and I just said, how many potatoes? I love my spud, as most of the people in Ireland, But can I just touch on the heart, and I say our heart is a pump. So if you went to have a shower and the pump was broken and you're going to get a trickle of water, that you're trying to get the pump fixed for the shower.
Yes.
So your heart is a pump, and the job of the pump is to pump blood through the body. And a good strong heart will keep pumping blood, a good strong heartbeat. And the blood vessel that it's pumping into is, if it narrows, the blood pressure can go up. So if the pump either weakens and has to work harder, or the blood vessel has narrowed, your blood pressure can rise. So what we want is a good strong pump, and we want our blood vessels to open when we need them to open and not be constricted. Coenzyme Q10 is a nutrient that we should make, and after the age of 50 we don't make as well. But we also know that the bowel bacteria is involved in making or producing that CoQ10. So if we happen to be low in coenzyme Q10, our heart pump can be that bit weaker.
Right.
So people benefit from taking coenzyme Q10. Now, the cholesterol lowering drugs that people take, the statin drugs, one of the known side effects of it is that it can weaken, it blocks coenzyme Q10 and in turn can weaken the heart. So some people feel that they don't have the same energy once they've started those drugs. Now in America they now come with a warning that this can lower your CoQ10 and so your energy, but we might be another 10 or 20 years from the labelling for that.
Catching up on that, yeah.
But in America, this is where it's gone to. But if we were to take coenzyme Q10 along with the statin drug, then it would increase your energy. The heart pump will work better, and you're not going to go down the line of going towards heart failure, because one of the side, down the line, a lot more people, less people with heart attacks, but more people with heart failure. So you want to protect your heart. So
yes.
Taking coenzyme Q10, and that's where a nutrient can help to counteract the side effect of a drug.
Right. But even listening to you, there's so much education we need on all of this that we're not getting. But the information is out there. I just like to bring out the information and let people know, because then you make the choice, don't you? Yes, yeah, of course.
Once you know something, you make the choice. So, if the Food and Drug Administration in America is saying, let's put it on the label, it's a bit like, how long did it take us to have the labels on the cigarette boxes to say this can cause cancer? And, now it's the pictures. You see a packet of cigarettes in America and you see a mouthful of cancer.
Yeah.
So every time you take out your cigarette, you're seeing a mouthful of mouth cancer. So, it had to go to a visual picture. The words wasn't enough to change it.
I wonder how much good it's doing. But anyway, lots of people on to us here. Could Anne recommend anything for fibromyalgia? I find that I'm very sensitive to a lot of foods as well. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, I am. Fibromyalgia is pain, a lot of exhaustion, because every muscle, every cell in your body makes energy, and very much the
It's
CoQ10.
female though, is it? It's a female problem.
No,
is
it's not.
Oh, is it
it's
not?
male and
Right.
female. It's
All
around.
Right.
It's been around for quite a while. So you've heard of chronic fatigue. So people who have fatigue, their muscles are not producing the energy that it should. Now the muscles can produce lactic acid, so it's the lactic acid burn. So people have pains everywhere. So today you might have a pain in your shoulder, but tomorrow it can be in your leg.
Yes.
So these obscure pains, well, it's not a shoulder injury. It's your fibrous tissue. It's your muscle tissue that is not making the energy. So I often I consider fibromyalgia is chronic fatigue with pain, as opposed to just being exhausted. But when this person who has food intolerances, every time she eats food, she's not digesting it. If it's not digested, it triggers inflammation reactions in the gut. As you trigger the inflammation, you release inflammation chemicals, and those inflammation chemicals give you the muscle pain. So the food intolerances is very much linked to fibromyalgia. And what I would say in a nutshell, start digesting your food. Remove, if it is gluten. Gluten sensitivity is so commonplace at the moment. And sometimes dairy. It could be gluten, it could be dairy, it could be eggs. But this person probably knows what they're intolerant to.
But if you don't, do you experiment?
You experiment.
You just take it out of your diet for X amount of time.
You can pick your finger and draw blood, send it off to be tested against numerous different foods, and then see which foods that you are reacting to. But there are common ones. The common would be wheat, dairy, eggs, sometimes fish. I'm seeing pea protein coming up. Peas, you'd never think of peas.
Go on.
But they're a very high protein food, and we're developing intolerances to some of the protein foods, partly because we don't make enough of the enzymes to digest those foods. So if we can't digest the food, we develop an intolerance to it.
Incredible.
We send out inflammation chemicals. So if this person has a lot of inflammation happening, so you have to counteract it. Taking a digestive enzyme will help you to digest the food better. Taking a probiotic to recolonize the gut with good bacteria, because in the absence of good bacteria, you don't make your B vitamins. Your B vitamins are needed to go into the energy-making parts of every cell in your body,
yes,
including your muscles. So if you don't have enough B vitamins going in, you won't make enough energy to drive the engines. So the muscles will get weaker. You're still trying to get up, like you get out of the bed and walk to the bathroom. You're not in pain from that. But somebody with fibromyalgia, halfway across the floor, they're in agony of pain just because of the effort it took to put their feet on the ground and walk to the bathroom.
It's incredible, isn't it?
And if you can picture that happening to you all day, every day, it's exhausting.
Exhausting. Mentally, I would say, as well as everything else.
And then it's, and are you depressed? Well, no, it's that you're not making the energy in any cell in the body. So the brain cells that need to make the brain chemicals may not be making enough of the brain chemicals. So yes, it looks like you're depressed, but if you've got the energy working again, then everything kicks back in.
A lot of stuff in here. And says, hi, I'm suffering with heartburn for the last 23 years. I had stomach ulcers, but they've cleared up. If I don't take my tablet every day, I will suffer with burning in my stomach for the day. Michael in Thurles.
If you don't make enough digestive enzymes, you have to make hydrochloric acid. You have to release it out of the wall of your stomach. In the presence of hydrochloric acid, you then release protein digesting enzymes into your stomach. But the assumption is that we have too much acid, where in fact we tend to have too little acid to make the enzymes. Without the enzymes, you eat food and you don't digest it properly. Now food ferments and creates a yeast overgrowth. And what you're refluxing back up is often this fermenting type of food. So at one point it caused ulcers in your system. But what they now know is those medications that block the acid, that's fine to temporarily stop the acid burning the ulcerated area. But in the long term, you are blocking your digestion of proteins. And remember, I said that the proteins go on to build your muscle, to build your brain chemicals, to build your hormones, to build enzymes everywhere. So if you keep blocking protein digestion, your system won't work as well as it was built to work. You're blocking something that is a normal physiological function of you digesting your food. So that tablet in a temporary. So what you actually need is to take digestive enzymes. Sometimes some of the fruits will have their own natural digestive enzymes. But to temporarily start taking some digestive enzymes to produce, just to help you break down that food and stop fermenting it.
Specifically what? You go into a shop and you ask for digestive enzymes. Simple as that.
So there's plant enzymes that are made. They're in a bottle and you can take either a tablet or a supplement. But down the line, just taking lemon juice in water can stimulate your own digestive enzymes. But if you have blocked your production of hydrochloric acid, or if you're low in zinc or vitamin B6 or magnesium, they're two minerals and a vitamin that are needed for you to produce your hydrochloric acid.
Right.
Without the hydrochloric acid, your cells are unable to make the digesting enzyme. Now, what we're also finding is people are developing autoimmune chemicals, so that you're attacking those cells that make the enzymes. So we see antiparietal antibodies. It's affecting your vitamin B12 and leading people to pernicious anemia, but it's also affecting the same parietal cell is what makes the enzymes. So we're finding a lot more autoimmune disease. We were talking earlier, somebody was asking about celiac and thyroid.
Sure.
There's a very big link. In this country, we have a very high incidence of people with celiac disease. And what they're finding is, in research, there's a high percentage of people that are developing autoimmune reaction that you're attacking your villi, giving you in the stomach, in the small intestine lining, that's giving you celiac disease. But there is a group of people with gluten sensitivity that are attacking, the immune system is attacking their thyroid. We have a very high incidence of people suffering with thyroid, low thyroid function in this country. But what's happening is you're being diagnosed, they're seeing the antibodies, but the link isn't fully been made yet in this country.
With food?
With celiac.
Yes.
And the celiac. So you can be diagnosed celiac and have thyroid involvement, but you can have gluten sensitivity, and those gluten antibodies are damaging your thyroid. What they're now saying in America, we're seeing gluten ataxia. People with an unsteady walk or an unsteady gait, and you're almost thinking, am I getting MS? Am I having Parkinson's? But it's actually the gluten antibodies are actually damaging the cerebellum in the brain. Now, conferences that are running in America with the doctors and research, this is all coming out. Even in the last year, there's more information coming out every year. We can't be relying on old information. We have to go with the newer research. And because we know as a country we have such a high incidence of celiac, research is saying in America, for every one person diagnosed in America with celiac, there's 8 undiagnosed. But unless you actually think, I wonder, could I be celiac? Now, you're not going to test for it.
Yeah.
And not everybody, only about 50% of the people are presenting with diarrhea, which, would make you think I should test you for celiac disease.
Yeah.
But you can be gluten sensitive and cause an attack on your thyroid. So if your thyroid does not work, you put on weight, because your metabolism should burn off the food you eat. So if your thyroid isn't burning off the food, and you can start eating less and less, trying to diet to reduce the weight. But if your thyroid is not functioning well, you can't burn off the food. So then you're put on a thyroid tablet and they're watching your blood levels. But really, if the cause is your thyroid is being damaged by gluten, you have to get off the gluten. Now, gluten is in wheat, rye, oats, barley, spelt. So some people are not being poisoned by gluten, but the immune system doesn't like it. The immune system reacts, sends out antibodies, and is attacking and insulin-dependent diabetes is a big link. So anybody insulin-dependent diabetic with thyroid involvement, start looking to see if celiac is there too.
All right, we only have about a minute and a half left, which is a shame because we have so many questions in here and so diverse as well as everything else. What we did decide was next time round you would talk about the link between depression and nutrition. And there are links?
There are links. As I said, your food is digested in your stomach and you're providing the raw material to your brain. When you make serotonin in your brain, the happy mood chemical, or when you make GABA, the calming mood chemical, serotonin is made from tryptophan, it's a protein. GABA is made from glutamic acid, it's a protein. Glutamine, it's a protein. But you need zinc, vitamin B6, you need iron and vitamin C, magnesium, folic acid, B12. These are B vitamins, vitamin C and minerals. If you don't have enough supply of those and you can't push the making of serotonin, then you can be low in serotonin or low in GABA. You can have, your mood is down or you're more worried. Right. Or paranoid. There's all these links to
anxiety, stress, all of these things.
And we see a lot of people with low essential fatty acids. So people who are dry, have dry skin, almost the face is like sandpaper, dryness, dry scalp, goosebumpy arms. You're low in the essential fatty acids. Every receptor in your brain is made from those essential fatty acids. If your body is low in the oils, and that's why we often say take fish oils, because if your body is low in oils, it's like the receptors are turned off. I put my phone on silent coming in here. Nobody's going to get me. My receptor is turned off.
Right.
But, you actually need to get the receptors going, and that's where the essential fatty acids, such as fish oil, come in.
Fascinating stuff altogether. I'm so sorry to everybody out there who gave us some questions. We will hang on to them and we will try and get to them over the next few weeks. And thank you for that, Anne. Lovely to see you again. And lots of people looking for your number as well. It's 087 7759 385. That's 087 7759 385.